What's up, Chip? What is up? I'm late. A lot. I didn't even stream yesterday. Yesterday I was just lazy. Today I was a little lazy, but I did make shorts today. I did make shorts today as well. So there's a little bit of an excuse there for today. Yesterday I was just lazy though. Whoops. Whoops. Speaking of filming shorts, whenever I do that, I have to move my tripod to, you know, film vertically. So I might have to finick with my camera a little bit. Hard to get into the exact same position as it was before. Which means, like, see right now, see it's cutting my head off a little. So I want to raise it, but I don't know the exact position I had it in before. There's no markings or anything, so it's hard. This seems about right. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, I've been blowing up on Twitter. Okay, guys. Okay, we're starting with this, and then we're getting into actually reacting and some reading things. Okay, before people get here, because of my masterful strategy. Okay, where? What do you mean where? On Twitter? Oh, on X. The land value tax Twitter sphere loves me right now. They love me. They love me. Blowing up how? We'll get there, buddy. Be patient. Okay. Yeah, they love me over there. And it was masterful. It was a masterful strategic move on my part. Okay. Basically, a few months ago or whatever, I made like a quick video on a land value tax. Oh, new subscriber. Thanks for the sub, man. I don't know if he's watching or not, but let me see if I can find it real quick. I made a short little YouTube short, literally 60 seconds. Here we go.
Land value tax is a tax on the value of land. Unlike property taxes, the tax
Pain's
is
more
only
like
on
cringe. True. It's gonna be so miserable watching that Ben Shapiro video. He's so bad faith on all the economic things. Anyway, I made like a quick YouTube short. Very quick. I didn't do my hair. I look horrible in this video, okay? Old microphone, everything. Somehow this video got posted onto Twitter, okay? Some guy just found it and it made the rounds on like LTV Twitter. This was like a few months ago. So anyway, like yesterday and today, I started making more higher quality shorts. Like, oh, you know, we got the nice background music, we got the better captions. I did comb my hair. Like how many? We'll get there. Okay, I'm making it interesting.
the best part of the consumption tax.
I made one on consumption tax because we wrote about that. I made one on the Phillips curve. Nobody cares about the Phillips curve one. Nobody cares about it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I was like, you know what? You know what the strategy is? The strategy is, okay. I manifested it. I manifested it so hard. I was like, I'm gonna make a new land value tax video. It's gonna be new and improved. It's we came out booty curves. True. For real. New and improved. And it's gonna be awesome. Oh, Barbara's correctly doing a channel. And I mentioned the people who posted the first one. And of course, my genius strategy. It did work. It did work. It has gotten reposted by so many LTV Twitter accounts.
But here's one that doesn't.
It's so nice.
Most
here's a video. It's a good video.
Present a trade-off between efficiency and equity. But here's one that doesn't. A land value tax is a tax on the value of land.
generally when you tax something, you get less of it. But new land can't be made, and land can't disappear. Its supply is fixed. In economic terms, it is perfectly inelastic. That's why a land value tax is considered to be such an efficient tax. It simply can't cause the same type of distortionary effects that other taxes cause. It does, however, discourage land speculation and land banking, which is currently how many rich people build and maintain their wealth. At the same time, by taxing land and not property, landowners are incentivized to develop the land productively, since their tax base remains the same, regardless of what type of building or how many apartments are on the land. In other words, you're going to incentivize the building of affordable housing. Furthermore, there's a strong moral argument for a land value tax. No one who owns land... I got it, by the way, I didn't realize how much better... in order to film these videos, like my monitor can raise up. So like I raised my monitor up to be what I thought was closer to eye level with the camera, but it still looks like I'm looking down so hard. I didn't realize how much better it looks actually looking to the camera itself. I gotta start memorizing my fucking lines, which is gonna be annoying. Responsible for its value. The land itself predates human society, and the value comes from the surrounding community. Therefore, it's unfair to collect economic rents from land, and instead they should be taxed away and redistributed to society with some type of basic income. And now I've been reposted by 23
Most
people.
taxes present a trade-off between...
Shut the fuck up. Okay. My masterful strategy worked. I'll post engagements. Look at all the reposts and quotes. We crossed it. We crossed a language barrier. A kid gives you in a minute or 2 seconds a treatise on what the world needs. There is hope. Not all is lost. Hell yeah. Yeah, we got reposted by Micah. No big deal. No big deal. No big deal. Okay, anyway. Okay, we're gonna read some shit today. Before we do, my favorite person to react to, Ben Shapiro. He's got dropped some more stuff. Woohoo. Yay. Can't wait, dude. Okay, this is actual socialism. Let's see.
Every so often they let the mask slip. So, for example, Representative Summer Lee, who's a full-on radical from Pennsylvania, she's like, no, I think she's going to be kind of radical. I actually don't think that she's going to be a centrist.
I know you are a progressive Democrat. Do you think that this pivot to the center, particularly in issues like the border and immigration and crime, are they going to hurt support for the Harris-Walz ticket, or is it what's required?
Yeah. So I have to say, and
Shapiro, I know, yeah.
And I like to hope that we're able to do this. I have to disagree a bit. I think that we have data, we have polling, we have anecdotal evidence from Americans all over the country, but especially I'm in Pennsylvania, in a swing state, where we're not actually asking for our candidates to run away from progressive ideals. We're asking them for them to run to them.
So, the dirty secret is, she is going to govern as a far leftist. Of course she is. That is what she wants to do.
Far leftist. True. He's not going to address the actual point that she is relatively centrist on some issues. I don't even know. See, the issue is the Democrats have to be a big a big tent party now when you're facing off against Trump. Like,
that's what Joe Biden has done. Now, the reason they have to obscure all of that is that the policies are trash. So, for example, you recall that just in the last couple of weeks, she had her aides, and then she actually trotted out a proposal to end inflation by targeting price gouging. The price gouging does not exist in the grocery industry. This is trash. It's stupid. The actual profit margin in the grocery industry...
I mean, she clarified. What she was calling for was not, I guess he just said price gouging, but it's like not strict price controls. It's like going after companies that have like monopoly power and try to use that. That is rarer in the grocery industry. But it happens. There was that case where egg companies were involved in a price fixing scheme back from 2004 to 2008. I think there are everyone remembers the egg one for some reason. I think there were a few other cases though where like this happens. Yeah.
Somewhere between 1% and 2%. This notion that somewhere in the back room, the folks over at Ralph's and at Publix are gathering together to jack up the price of a loaf of bread to $100 is absurd. It's ridiculous. It's unbelievably stupid. But here are Democrats who endorsed her price gouging plans because this is the way that it works. She says something dumb. The entire Democratic Party then rushes to defend it.
What do you think of the price gouging ban that you put out there? Republicans are saying they're price controls. What would be your answer?
No, they're not price controls. Particularly.
He's actually refuting it.
Take a look at the profit margins and making food counts.
What would be your take?
Okay, what a profit margin point.
I think what Thomas is trying to say, and what she has said basically, is how do we deal with the issues of inflation and how do we keep food prices down? We've made great progress on inflation.
Yeah, it's not price controls. I mean, actually, it was a Republican idea. Wage and price controls goes back to Richard Nixon. This is not that.
Look at them trying to spin it. They're trying to spin it. They're trying to spin the price gouging. No, well, yeah, we totally endorse what she says. I mean, it's really stupid, but we endorse what she says. I mean, they're just trying to get inflation under control. Folks, our friends in Israel need our help now more than ever. If you're looking for
oh, do they, Ben? Oh, I bet they do.
way to support the Holy Land, you need to check out Artza Box. Artza brings the essence of Israel right to your doorstep. Every 3 months, you receive a carefully curated collection of authentic Israeli products, a treasure trove of handcrafted gifts,
authentic Israeli products,
artwork, delicious foods, aromatic spices.
Does this really? How does this support?
More. It's like taking a journey through the land of the Bible without even leaving your home. Here's why Artza is really special. With tourism at a standstill and many Israelis displaced, your subscription directly supports small businesses and charities in Israel. You're not just getting amazing products.
Oh, small businesses and charities. Okay, great,
and importantly, it's a blessing for the people of Israel when they need it the most. Head on over to Artza Box.
Blessing for the people of Israel. Phenomenal. Okay.
Ben 10. Support Israel in a tangible way. Get your Artza Box today. Here's the problem. The minute they actually get called on the policies, they fall apart. So Senator Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is just an amazingly tragic story of what happens when...
By the way, Kamala is specifically, I don't know for sure if he's going to draw this comparison, okay? It won't surprise me at all if he does. I think Elizabeth Warren did introduce like some price gouging ban before. Elizabeth Warren price gouging ban. And Kamala, I think, has specifically said that it's not going to be that type of style. God, I'm pretty sure was it on No Opinion? Really like most of what I see from Kamala as the campaign so far, but I disagree with her about an anti-price gouging policy. Fortunately, Jerusalem Damas reports Harris has clarified that she doesn't support price controls or endorse Elizabeth Warren's bill from 2022. When I asked the Harris campaign for clarity, a senior official told me that Harris was not supporting price control. Fuck, I forgot to turn the music off. Every time. Not supporting price controls, nor would her proposal go after price gougers. Price gougers apply beyond food and grocery stores. After some prodding, the official confirmed that this meant Harris had not endorsed the Warren-Casey bill.
When an interesting person goes into politics. Because Elizabeth Warren, if you go all the way back to the early 2000s, she wrote a book called The Two-Income Trap, which is kind of fascinating, in which she, for example, suggested there should not be universal pre-K, in which she suggested school vouchers. And then she decided to run for senator from Massachusetts and run as female Bernie Sanders. And she's been doing that ever since, while also pretending to be Native American, of course. Well, she was questioned on CNBC about her price gouging proposals, which of course are incredibly stupid. And here is CNBC's Joe Kernan just ripping her up.
It's not good policy, and it could actually do more harm than good. And I can paint you a picture of how that would work and how it's worked in the past, where we've tried to artificially
in the USSR there are bread lines.
Hold prices
down.
Say it. Competition doesn't come in. People don't, like if beef is too high, people don't move the chicken. The competitors don't come in to undercut where the beef prices are. Nothing works when you try to artificially control prices. It's just a supply and demand issue. It's a flawed idea.
So did you have a question here?
Damn.
Yes, why would you propose a flawed idea when the real problem, if you really want to help the middle class, if you really sincerely want to help people having trouble at the grocery store, it's not price gouging that's the issue.
Okay,
damn. I wish he, he probably said something like pretty like social democrat-ish, like give them more benefits or something, and that's why Ben Shapiro cut it out. I bet that's what happened.
The problem, every time they mention a policy, it turns out the policy is trash. She is also promoting.
Wait, did Elizabeth Warren even speak
here?
Yes, control prices. It's just a supply and demand issue. It's a flawed idea.
So did you have a question here?
Yes. Why would you propose a flawed idea when the real problem,
if
you really want to help the middle class, if you really sincerely want
Yeah, she literally did not get to answer the question at all.
Every time they mention a policy, it turns out the policy is trash. She has also promoted the idea that we should hand out, for example, $25,000 per first-time house purchaser, which inflates the price of housing. Here's Chuck Schumer defending that.
That's great. Yeah. So you shouldn't view that A. He's not mentioning the supply side effects. B, we have empirical data from Singapore showing that it probably won't increase the housing that much. And also any increase in the price of housing benefits the Americans who own homes, which is, I think, like 53% of U.S. adults own their own home. And then also, it's not really, I understand Ben Shapiro's against this anyway. It's not really a housing policy. It's an income redistribution policy. It's allowing low-income people to basically buy into the housing system. It's an income redistribution policy. It's not like meant to address the big housing issue as much as it is to address income inequality. Ben Shapiro's obviously going to be opposed to that anyway, but...
Senator Schumer, what's your message to Gen Z?
Gen Z, Harris understands, Walz understands your problems. Down payment for a house, $25,000. All the folks who can afford the monthly payment but can't afford the down payment, we're coming to help you.
Free money. Free money. That's the campaign platform. Don't worry. It's not going to cause inflation. Free money. Meanwhile, it turns out.
True. We're not, but you're not going to. I have not heard once out of Ben Shapiro's mouth criticizing Trump for his tariffs, which are inflationary, which aren't going to help jobs, and which are going to tax low and middle income people way more than any of Harris's or Biden's proposals.
Out that if you actually hold her accountable for her own positions on, say, Afghanistan, that's bad too. She cannot be linked with her positions. The minute that you link together the machine positions of the Democratic Party with the fresh coat of paint, she's got a problem, which is why she's avoiding all of this. Here's Representative Pat Ryan, Democrat from New York. He's asked about the fact that she said she was the last person in the room when it came to the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the disastrous withdrawal. Pat Ryan had ripped into that withdrawal, and he has asked, so do you hold her responsible? Watch him spin.
The vice president says she was that last person in the room on that decision. Is that failure also hers?
We've got to stop assigning partisan blame on fundamental things like national security.
I thought we'd be done with the Afghanistan thing. I have that Inspector General report to go through, but I thought we'd be done. What up, Kinley? Welcome back. I thought we'd be done. I think I made a page to read through the Afghanistan special report. I might have deleted it just because I thought it wouldn't be an issue anymore. Bennett's dumb. People have first home sooner equals more tax sooner. True. I don't know. Yeah, it's just stupid. But I don't even care if he criticizes a policy, okay? I made a fucking dumbass tier list video of the policies. I think I put the housing subsidies in C tier or whatever. Okay? it's fine to criticize them. But you know what I also did in my video? I put the building more homes in S tier. I mentioned that. That is but he doesn't. Oh, it's in the orange brand bad part. How many pages? Is this 70 pages? Oh. I don't want to. I just want to read about monopsonies and wage setting, and I want to read about I want to read about means testing. I want to read about worker co-ops, and I don't care about this. I don't care. I think the decision was I think the decision to leave Afghanistan was overall a good thing. Maybe he didn't execute it correctly. I honestly don't know enough to. I just want to read about Minecraft for real. I don't know enough to say one way or the other. But I like it. It's just so inconsequential compared to any other thing.
I said it as an American. I said it as someone
or anything that Trump has done. So
who served in combat, who had friends that served in Afghanistan. If we can't make mistakes and wrestle with that with a little bit of space to do better in the future, how do we expect to continue on the next 250 years as this great country that we are?
It's just pathetic. Again, the minute they're called on their positions, they have to either reverse the position or they have to spin like crazy, which is why Kamala doesn't want to answer any questions whatsoever. For example, Bernie Sanders yesterday, he is asked about the fact that suddenly Kamala Harris is strong on the border. What the hell happened? We had 3.5 years of wide open borders and you guys talking about decriminalizing border crossings. Kamala Harris, when she was a senator, voted against federal law preventing sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. Kamala Harris, while she was vice president, openly talked about.
Is that really the issue that we have with the border, Ben Shapiro, is sanctuary cities? Libertarian Ben Shapiro is now having issues with sanctuary cities and not any of the other. I mean, they're probably much more fair policies to criticize Kamala Harris on Kamala Harris. I mean, the borders are mean. She was just tasked with the fucking diplomatic shit. And she seemed to have done. I mean, she went to all these different countries and she told people not to come and got them to fucking sign agreements. But
about decriminalizing border crossings. And here is Vice President Harris now. She's now switched her position. Now she's a border hawk. If you watch her commercials, not only is she a border hawk, she shows herself with Trump's border wall. Bernie Sanders is asked about this. Watch him spin.
We have a crisis at the border. We've got to make sure that fentanyl does not get into this country. We have to crack down on illegal immigration. But what we need is comprehensive immigration reform. I mean, you got God knows how many young people in this country, as a result of DACA, who deserve to gain citizenship. We need skilled workers, and we need workers in this country. A lot of labor shortages all over America where immigrants can play an important role. So keeping people from illegally entering the country obviously is the right thing to do.
Wow, now it's the right thing to do. Look at that. They all just flipped their position. Well, the good news for the Democrats, they can always count on the media to cover for everything. For literally everything. Very tired of the lies and the twists of the main.
Oh, we're about to watch this one too. I don't think any I don't think any conservative has a great understanding of immigration law. I don't even know. I feel like when I was in fucking 8th grade, I was like literally talking to people making the point like, oh, illegal immigration isn't good, but we need to make it easier to legally immigrate. That's how you solve illegal immigration. We need like some type of comprehensive reform. I'm pretty sure Democrats have always had that messaging. Rep stopped the asylum seeker bill for Trump to run in it. Yep. Republicans. Yep. I don't know. Also, he said we had 3 years of wide open borders when, like, but I'm pretty sure back Destiny X. I know I watched it. That was like my. Hold on, give me 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Just a little bit here. I think this is everything. Oh, what the? Oh, it's the wrong thing. Okay, hold on. Some may accuse me, potentially, of being a Sam Harris fan. There is a chance I might have read, just a little bit of his works, and maybe some might say that. And we all know I'm a Destiny clone, so it was a big day for me. I watched it all, or listened to it all. I thought it was pretty good. I wish I forget who exactly it was that Sam had a conversation with. Where he did like the whole like anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism thing. I feel like Destiny could have pushed back on that more. They did talk about religion in Israel Palestine, and Destiny did push back against it. I thought he did pretty good. They had like a relatively short back and forth on that. I thought I was good. But I think Destiny could also push back on. This didn't come up, so I understand like why he didn't. He's not going to just randomly bring it up. But he also could have pushed back on the like whole anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism thing. I don't know. I think Sam Harris does a good job. I think Sam Harris does a good job showing the moral blindness of a lot of people. Not necessarily on the whole. I don't think Sam Harris is Islamophobic. I just think he has. I think he overascribes the role of Islam and underascribes the role of other things, like the fact that Palestinians are under blockade and occupation. But you know. I think there was actually a debate that Sam Harris was in where he got caught off guard by the fact that there are Christian Palestinian suicide bombers in the PFLP Christians. Because he was like talking about the role of like Islam and terrorism, and I think I forget what. It's really good because Sam Harris did not do very good in it. But I think there are Christian suicide bombers in the PFLP. I feel like Okay, I don't know. Maybe. Well, hold on. Let me ask Perplexity first. It's not been particularly so dear Christian suicide bombers. Here's some key point. God damn it. Okay, I feel like I'm not gonna. I don't remember who he debated, so I'm not gonna be able to find it. God fucking damn it. Okay, Christian suicide bombers. Palestine. I feel like I remember it was Palestine. Maybe it was a different country. There's no specific information about Christians who. Okay, goddamn. Well, fuck it. Goddamn. Maybe Sam Harris is right about it. Okay. I watched maybe 30 seconds of this video in total. I just was skimming through it. He does the whole Austrian business cycle thing. So let's pull up the notes on that. I don't like it. He might make some good points in here. I don't know. I need to read general theory at some point. That's what I need to do. He called it. I think he called the writing style boring or something. Which I don't know. I mean, it's like an economic. Of course it is, but you know. All right.
It's the Roaring '20s in America, an age of miracles, an age of art, an age of excess.
Goodbye.
But no more. Now the '30s have begun, and there is a new word: depression.
What caused the Great Depression? And could it happen again? It's one of the great puzzles of economics, and one of the most important questions in history. It's important because depending on what you think caused the Great Depression, you might structure an entire economic policy around avoiding such a situation again. And indeed,
where's the pancake? I need the. He mentioned the whole. Well, he mentioned Audrey's business cycle theory. I want the pancake analogy. Where is it?
That's precisely what has happened over the course of American history. In the desire to prevent another Great Depression, our government has grown in unprecedented ways, ironically setting the stage for a great stagnation still to come. There are essentially three main theories as to what caused the Great Depression: the Keynesian theory, the monetarist theory, and the Austrian theory. John Maynard Keynes, born in 1883, is perhaps the most influential economist in modern history. His book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money.
Fuck, I don't know enough about the Great Depression and know specifically how it caused it, but you know.
Is a nearly unreadable tone with a seductive central thesis that a free market.
Nearly unreadable tone.
Left to its own devices does not create full employment, but that by increasing demand.
Based and true. I don't think anyone honestly disputes that anymore because everyone. I'm pretty sure everyone at this point has come on board with nominal and real rigidities. So.
Demand in the marketplace via government pumping, full employment can indeed be achieved. According to Keynes, the problem of the Great Depression was secular stagnation. People apparently stopped wanting to buy things. Normally, the idea is that if consumption falls, savings rise. When savings rise, interest rates go down as banks need to pay people less for storing their money. When interest
This is a thing people do a lot. Keynes' point is the paradox of thrift. The reason why they call it a paradox is because although individual savings increase, right? If consumption falls, individual savings increase, total savings actually decrease. That's the whole point of the paradox, because it leads to a decrease in aggregate demand, which decreases total output, which in turn will decrease total savings. That's the whole point of the paradox. The paradox states that an increase in autonomous savings leads to a decrease in aggregate demand, and thus a decrease in gross output, which will in turn lower total savings. The paradox is, narrowly speaking, that total saving may fall because of the individual's attempts to increase their saving, and more broadly speaking, that increase in saving may be harmful to the economy. That's the he's literally doing a logical fallacy right now. Paradox is an example of a fallacy composition. The idea that what is true of the parts must always be true of the whole. That's what he's doing here. He's saying
secular stagnation. People apparently stopped wanting to buy things.
People stopped wanting to buy things.
Normally, the idea is that if consumption falls, savings rise. When savings rise,
and their savings rise, so now he's assuming
down as banks need to pay people less for storing.
Now he's assuming total savings is increasing, when that might not necessarily be true. Just because people stop buying stuff and start saving more doesn't necessarily mean that total savings is going to increase.
When interest rates go down, borrowing increases. Investments in innovation are thus renewed. This theory, supply-side economics, was rejected by Keynes. Keynes argued that if businesses expected demand to level off for the long term, they wouldn't invest at all. Thus,
and then now we have the objectively true and based animal spirits theory to business cycle, which we read this one paper on, which shows that compared to, I am assuming he's going to mention monetarist stuff as well, but the Keynesian model, at least from this one study, seemed to be quite a bit better than the Austrian one. I actually really like this. There's this. I hope I'm able to find it. I think it's this. There was this lecture.
So thank you, everybody.
This guy actually gives a really good explanation of the Keynesian cross.
Spending, investment spending, and government spending, and also net exports. But just for our purposes today, I'm just going to assume a closed economy. So consumption spending is C, investment spending is I, and government spending is G. The first graphical model of using this equation was called the Keynesian cross, or the income and expenditure model. So you take those three components of expenditure and you stack them on top of each other. And that gives you the total level of expenditure in the economy. So you have consumption spending, and then you add investment spending, and then you add government spending. And that gives you the total level of expenditure. Notice that there's this diagonal line coming out of the origin. That's the equilibrium condition line. That's the line where all levels of income equal the levels of expenditure. And so if our economy is on that line, it means that we're in macroeconomic equilibrium from the Keynesian perspective. Okay, so you'll notice that only one of the components of expenditure has a slope, and that's the consumption function there at the bottom. The consumption function is the only one that has a slope, and it's totally dependent on income. So you add the intercept as autonomous consumption, and you have income multiplied by what's called the marginal propensity to consume, which turns out.
Wait, did I miss the video on Keynes? No, we're watching it right now. Right now, I'm just explaining. He just said
investment and innovation are thus renewed.
Right now, he talked about the paradox of thrift, and he's being dumb on it because he's like, oh, when consumption falls, savings increased, and Keynes is stupid, even though Keynes' whole point was that even though individual savings may increase, that might cause total savings to fall. That's the whole issue. And then now he's doing Keynes thought that he's doing the animal spirits thing.
According to Keynes, the problem of the Great Depression was secular stagnation. People apparently stopped wanting, or thus renewed. This theory, supply-side economics, was rejected by Keynes. Keynes argued that if businesses expected demand to level off for the long term, they wouldn't invest at all. Thus, to restart the economy.
Now he's doing businesses don't expect the economy don't expect demand to go up. They're not going to invest, which is true. Mega based.
To be the only
and there's this video from the Mises Institute. This guy actually shits on this graph, but I think he actually does a good explanation of the Keynesian
variable
cross.
that goes into determining the Keynesian spending multipliers, which you've heard a lot about, I'm sure. And then you stack on investment spending, which isn't dependent on income, importantly, and government spending, which also is not dependent on income. Notice the slope of that investment spending line and the government spending line is totally dependent on the consumption function. So
what are you guys talking about? Boring economic stuff.
So you just sort of stack it on top. In my classes,
wait, no, right now it's fun economic stuff. We'll get into the real boring shit later.
To refer to it as a stack of pancakes. You've got a stack of consumption pancakes, a stack of investment spending pancakes, and a stack of terrible tasting government spending pancakes. Okay, so the reason I talk about the stack of pancakes is because it makes it easier for students to think about taking some of those pancakes out. So if we start taking away some spending, and in the Keynesian model, what's typically done is we say there's this unanticipated decrease in investment spending. So you see that investment spending line? What I'm about to do when I click the button here is it's going to fall, but you'll notice that the top line falls down at the same rate. It does the same exact thing. So, and that's because what we're going to stipulate is that there is no response from the government. There's no government policy that steps in and says we're going to change the way we're spending because of the change in investment spending. So watch what happens when we have an unanticipated decrease in investment spending.
This is literally the Great Depression right here, guys.
Spending. Well, it wasn't very smooth. So they both fall together and the economy collapses. And the reason for that is because of a very important Keynesian assumption that's put in, and that is that wages are sticky. Everybody's heard of this, the whole sticky wage.
Wages are sticky. I don't think anyone seriously disputes that wages are sticky anymore. At least not to my knowledge. He keeps suggesting that it's silly. How does this work? It's like how does what work? If you really want to donate, you click on the guide, and the guide tells you how to do shit, and then you donate here and type in like this. Or you don't have to, but he's calling this graph stupid, but it's actually one of the better explanations of the Keynesian cross that I've heard.
And so since wages are sticky, if we have a decrease in spending, which means that firms are receiving lower revenue, firms still have to pay those higher wages or those stuck wages. And so they decrease output, but then they can't lower the wage so that they can have full employment at the new lower level of spending and the new lower level of output. So there's this inherent mismatch. There's these inherent persistent disequilibria in labor markets because wages are stuck at too high of a level for whatever reason. There are a few reasons that are offered, like maybe there's a psychological reason workers don't want to accept a lower wage. There are maybe legal.
I feel like recruitment, I guess. Or ISLM. Oops. I feel like it was in one of these videos. Recruitment gave some good empirical evidence for sticky wages. Wage stickiness. Here we go.
On slides. They've been doing some great work at the San Francisco Fed, looking at the distribution of wage changes. And what you find out is that there are a lot of individuals for whom the wage change from last year to this year is zero. Just zero. And it turns out when the economy...
Have you tried deadlock or monkey? No.
Economy is depressed, a lot higher fraction, precisely zero. That's exactly what you'd expect to see if what's happened is a depressed economy, lots of unemployment. In a way, in terms of supply and demand, wages should be falling, but
I know.
Wages. So that's, we've got very direct evidence of wage stickiness. We also have a bit of evidence from the catastrophe that is Europe. So this is from Alan Taylor and Kevin O'Rourke paper on the crisis in the Eurozone. And looking at the countries that are a mess, the blue lines are employment, the red lines are private sector wages. Okay, Spain has 26% unemployment. Ireland has almost 14% unemployment. And Ireland is, you can say Spain, oh, it's regulations, it's unions. Ireland, before the crisis, was supposed to be a highly flexible economy. But even in Ireland, wages do not fall. The only place where you actually see...
I mean, there's that venture capitalist, and there's plenty of... there's plenty of games with economies in them.
Which shows that if things are catastrophic enough, wages will fall, but they really don't want to fall. Latvia is supposed to be a story of flexibility, and yet, even in Latvia, so what you want to look at is the green line. Even there, in the face of massive unemployment, wages are flat. One interesting thing, by the way, on this whole issue of price stickiness and wage stickiness, there was always a fairly large divide between the regular macro guys and the international macro people. International macro people never bought into real business cycle stuff, or most of them did not, because if you look at the international scene, and particularly if you look at what happened when exchange rates change, it's just glaringly obvious that a lot of prices are set in domestic currency. So that when exchange rates change, so do relative wages, relative prices. And you see a lot of that in this crisis. So one of the nice things about this is...
There's one more graph, Iceland,
yep. All those European countries with terrible economic crises, and still wages not falling. And meanwhile, you have Iceland. So this is not a country with a population of Brooklyn. This is a country with a population of one neighborhood in Brooklyn, right? And wages did not fall in krona, but they fell drastically. Basically, Iceland had a 40% fall in wages measured in euros because the krona was devalued. And that's telling you that wages really are sticky in domestic currencies. This is the...
Anyway, yeah, there's good evidence for wage stickiness, so...
Massive government interventionism would be necessary. FDR took the Keynesian theory to heart. It failed utterly. In fact, in an early iteration of Keynesian theory, Herbert Hoover actually radically increased government...
Can we stimulate which system brings the most prosperity? Wait, I have ads? I mean, listen, we'll get there one day with the AI shit.
Hoover on his own agenda in 1932.
We might have done nothing. That would have been utter ruin.
I'm pretty sure FDR had like the highest GDP growth out of any president, right? Wasn't it at like 10% for his term or whatever?
Instead, we met the situation with proposals to private
he's talking about Hoover right now, but...
of the most gigantic program of economic defense.
I feel like FDR's New Deal worsened a prolonged Great Depression. I feel like FDR had really high GDP growth. I feel like I remember that.
Ever evolved in the history of the Republic.
In 1929, the federal budget was $3.1 billion. By 1932,
all we care about is the deficit. Okay.
$4.6 billion, a nearly 50% increase. Hoover also participated.
Herbert Hoover never radically increased government spending.
Paid it in subsidy. Two, he'd increased it to $4.6 billion.
4.6. Wow. I guess that was probably a lot bigger in terms of percentage GDP back then. Am I misremembering this? I feel like FDR had a really high GDP growth. Said deficit of... I think this is literally just spending.
The federal...
He just said budget. He didn't even say deficit.
In the history of the Republic.
In 1929, the federal budget was $3.1 billion. By 1932, he'd increased it to $4.6 billion, a nearly 50% increase. Hoover also participated in subsidies to agriculture on a massive scale, tried to pressure firms not to cut workers and wages, forced the government to pay above market wages for federal projects. Hoover also pursued government-sponsored loans to states and banks. Hoover even pressed enormous tax increases. FDR doubled down on Hoover's policies.
This vicious tightening.
I want to see what the debt was though. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, debt to GDP, Fred. It was definitely high during the Great Depression, but like, Oh, it doesn't. It only goes back to 1960.
Circle of our declining national income had to be broken. We accepted the final responsibility of government to spend money when no one else had money left to spend.
That's a GDP, 16%, 17%, 22%, 34%. It's not even that high.
The result was, according to Professors Harold Cole and Lee Ohanian of UCLA's Department of Economics, an economic depression prolonged by at least 7 years. According to Cole and Ohanian, quote, President Roosevelt believed that excessive competition was responsible for the depression by reducing prices and wages, and by extension, reducing employment and demand for goods and services. So he came up with a recovery package that would be unimaginable today, allowing businesses in every industry to collude without the threat of antitrust prosecution, and workers to demand salaries about 25% above where they ought to have been given market forces.
I mean, that, yes, would be unimaginable today, but you know what else would be unimaginable today, today, Ben? Liquidate labor, liquidate... Well, what's the quote? Purge the rottenness out of the system. Liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate the farmers, liquidate real estate. That, according to Herbert Hoover, was the advice he received from Andrew Mellon, the Treasury Secretary, as America plunged into depression. Oh, Krugman. Republican staff at the Congressional Joint Economic Release Report. Spend less, owe less, grow the economy. Argue that slashing government spending and employment in the face of a deeply depressed economy would actually create jobs. I feel like he literally said, like, purrs are running out of system. Debt to GDP is kind of weird because GDP was falling massively. Well, yeah, but I don't know. I feel like I would still care about it more than the nominal value of the debt. But, like, you should. You should be increasing the debt to GDP ratio during a depression. That's something you should probably be doing.
The economy was poised for a beautiful recovery, but that recovery was stalled by these misguided policies. By artificially inflating both prices and wages, the New Deal policies short-circuited the market's self-correcting forces. Then there's the second theory of the Great Depression, the monetarist theory. In their classic 1960s...
Fucking hell, I'm not... Oh, Milton Friedman. I'm not gonna... I don't have enough background knowledge about the Great Depression to specifically know whether the monetarist version is right. We'll have to read more on it later. Damn.
63 book, A Monetary History of the United States. Milton Friedman and Anna Schwartz suggested the Great Depression was caused by a drop in the stock of money. Banks began calling in loans in order to pay off their depositors, thus sucking liquidity out of the economy. This lack of monetary supply, they argued, led to a massive contraction as people hoarded the money they had. In the aftermath of the collapse of Keynesian theory of economics, thanks to stagflation in the 70s, in which money was injected into the system only to lead to high levels of inflation and economic stagnation, the monetarist theory became the way of the world. It remains the basis for Federal Reserve policy today, which seeks monetary stability. The final theory of the Great Depression is the Austrian theory.
Okay, well, that was a really short explanation, but I mean, like, what's funny is that Ben Shapiro fucking, like, all I've seen Ben Shapiro do, like, for the past, for the past, like, I guess I wasn't really watching Ben Shapiro 2 years ago. All I've ever seen Ben Shapiro do is, like, rant about how bad increasing the money supply is to, because it's increasing inflation. He's like, Democrats are injecting $500 billion trillion into the money supply and it's increasing inflation. But now he's saying it's good to do that.
This lack of monetary supply, they argued, led to a massive...
So I guess he's not saying it's good. He's just explaining the monetary theory. But I mean,
contraction as people hoarded the money they had. In the aftermath of the collapse of Keynesian theory of economics, thanks to
like, if that's true, then what we should have done is probably increase the supply of money.
Inflation
then,
in the
right?
70s, in which money was injected into the system only to lead to high levels of...
Also, earlier he was suggesting that Jerome Powell only is suggesting rate cuts now to help get Kamala elected, which is interesting.
Inflation and economic stagnation. The monetarist theory became the way of the world. It remains the basis for Federal Reserve policy today, which seeks monetary stability. The final theory of the Great Depression is the Austrian theory. These economists believe that easy money policies essentially created a bubble prior to the Great Depression. That bursting bubble was then exacerbated by terrible economic policy. There's a debate among Austrian economists as to whether Milton Friedman's theory of monetary contraction was correct, or whether, as Murray Rothbard argued, the real problem was a lack of faith in the system from the population at large, that the Federal Reserve could not have stemmed by simply injecting more cash into the system. We'll get some more on this in a second. First, anybody with a basic understanding of economics can see the economy is not in amazing shape right now. I'm not saying that the plane is falling out of the sky, but just in case it were, you would want a parachute. Well, here is your economic parachute warning. I've been telling you for years, you need to diversify your portfolio with precious metals. If you'd listened to me years ago, little bend to 98.98 or the economy takes is made before August 38.98 today.
Home next to it is in foreclosure, 2 others behind me, and 1 across the street, and 2 more at the end.
It's like, leaving your children. I mean, I'm walking away from something that's meant so much to me.
The arguments about the Great Depression were projected forward into arguments about the causes of the Great Recession in 2007, 2008. The left essentially argued that greedy banking industry titans took advantage of predatory loans on those who couldn't afford them, sliced and diced those loans and mixed them with higher-rated assets, creating an entire industry of poison credit instruments, which were then insured in credit default swaps. When subprime loans went bust, the entire system took it on the chin. The solution was...
That's actually, guys, we might end up agreeing with Ben here. Okay, I haven't done a ton of reading into it, but like part of the reading I've done a little bit on like nominal GDP targeting. Part of that reading is basically monetary policy could have been too loose prior to the financial crisis. I'm not gonna. Remember exactly what he said, but I know Scott Summer has a lot of, or Scott Sumer, something like that. I think he did a lecture for the Adam Smith Institute, which we've listened to part of, where he talks about it.
Says that
thing is, FDR caused a recession by lowering government spending in 1937. The New Deal helped a lot prior to that, but we really got out of the Great Depression by spending during World War II. Yeah, obviously. It's important to remember that FDR's treasury was a massive deficit hawk. Yep. I feel like...
So let's start off with a quote which represents, I think, the consensus view and the way it's linked up to the Great Depression, which is an area I've done a lot of research. This is from Robert Hall, very respected American economist. And the very first paragraph of a paper he wrote on this crisis starts off with some sentences that I think are actually completely wrong, but most people would kind of probably read over without even thinking about. So let's look at what he says. The worst financial crisis in the history of the US and many other countries started in 1929. Actually, that's not true. There was no financial crisis in the United States in 1929. The financial crisis was in 31, 32, 33. Now, why am I being so picky about that? Because the implication of this introduction is that the financial crisis of 1929 caused the Great Depression. But if, in fact, the Great Depression began in 29, and it did, and the financial crisis was in 31, 32, 33, it makes more sense to think about the Great Depression as leading to bank failures, international foreign exchange crises, and so on. Then he continues, the second worst struck in the fall of 2008. Now that is true. That's referring to Lehman Brothers.
Nice one, bro. Thank you for the 5 bits, Wise, Kanye West.
Which failed in September 2008, and the next few months were quite a bad banking crisis. And the Great Recession followed. Well, the Great Recession began in December 2007. Now, I will cut him a little bit of slack because the Great Recession was mild for the first 6 months. But if you look at the data, the U.S. economy pretty much fell off the cliff, and for that matter, the global economy. Right around June. I'm not tall enough to quite reach that peak, but that peak there is in June of 2008, and the trough, which I can barely reach, is December of 2008. And I'm going to refer over the next few minutes quite a bit to that 6-month period, because these, by the way, are monthly estimates of a private firm of GDP that's actually only officially computed quarterly. But you really need to look at the monthly estimates to get a sense of how dramatic the decline was, how rapid, and what a short period much of the damage was done in. June to December 2008. Okay. Now that's nominal GDP. By itself, that tells us nothing about the business cycle. I mean, the fastest growing nominal GDP over the last 15 years in the world was probably Zimbabwe. And they had a depression around 2005 to 10, somewhere in there. So nominal GDP tells you nothing about the business cycle by itself. In the long run, real and nominal variables are unrelated. But it so happens that for many industrial countries, the US, Britain, Eurozone, in the short run, nominal and real are highly correlated. If I toggle back and forth between these graphs, you can clearly see the same sort of pattern. The nominal grows a little bit more because there's inflation included in nominal variables. Basically, nominal GDP growth is inflation plus real GDP growth. But in the short run, a dramatic change in nominal GDP will almost always show up in real GDP. And you can see real GDP also decline sharply. If we go back, if I had asked a bunch of economists, very prestigious mainstream economists, back in 2006, I'd shown them this graph and asked, what do you think would happen to the economy if nominal GDP did this because monetary policy was too contractionary? And also, I want you to assume there's no financial distress at all. No banking crisis, no financial crisis. If this happened to nominal GDP, a 4% decline over a year instead of a normal 5% increase, which is the trend in the US, meaning that a 9% gap opened up between actual and trend GDP. What would that do to real GDP? Most macroeconomists would say something like this, even if you told them to assume no banking crisis. So that's a sufficient condition. Now, this is what got me into blogging and why I'm here, I guess, indirectly. For years.
Yeah, I think Ben Shapiro is probably going to argue that monetary policy was too loose, and that's what led to like a speculative bubble. We'll read about it a lot more one day. I think there's actually probably a better argument to be made that monetary policy was too tight leading up to the financial crisis.
I've been teaching monetary economics out of the most popular textbook in the United States, written by Frederick Mishkin, who served at the Federal Reserve Board. And this is sort of some of the summary points he makes towards the end of the textbook that he really wants the students to be aware.
Some will agree that nominal GDP changes real GDP in the short run. I mean, he said they're highly correlated in the short run. I don't know if he agrees that they change it.
Let's look first at the first and third. It's dangerous to associate easing and tightening monetary policy with short-term interest rates. And yet I felt in late 2008, almost everybody I talked to was assuming Fed policy was very easy. When I asked why, they would say, well, because interest rates are very low. Third point, monetary policy can be highly effective in reviving a weak economy, even if short-term interest rates are near zero. Again, I would talk to people and they'd say, well, the Fed is out of ammunition. They've cut interest rates close to zero. There's nothing more the Fed can do. So I started to wonder, how is it that we've been teaching these ideas to our students for decades, and we didn't seem to believe them when a crisis hit? Are the textbooks wrong, or are what we are thinking now?
Yeah, I don't know if that highly correlated was meant to imply that. I don't know, but
how is that wrong? And I think the textbooks had it right. Now in the middle, Michigan points to the role of other asset prices.
I mean, obviously, he's a monetarist. Like he said in the long run that they're not related to each other. So
and what they can tell us about the stance of monetary policy. We're going to look at some other asset prices, and what we're going to see in a moment is that they were all signaling money is very tight. Everything except short-term nominal interest rates was signaling extremely tight money. Before I do.
Yeah, I feel like I think I watched about half of this. And then I think I read one article from the Cato Institute about nominal GDP targeting. However, I am inclined to believe this guy more than Ben Shapiro, just because I know Ben Shapiro is probably not acting as good a faith. And they're both like I guess I mean, Ben claims to be a libertarian. Okay, they're both like libertarians, so I am equally skeptical of both of them. It's just that Ben Shapiro has proven himself to be more stupid.
More government regulation, and for some reason, more subsidization of demand for things like subprime mortgages. The right argues that all of this was incentivized by governmental action via Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But the Clinton-era revision of the Community Investment Act led to bank regulators pressuring banks to make those subprime loans with the quiet.
Well, he said in the long run they're always going to look the same, right? I think he said in the long run that they're completely unrelated.
Variables. Basically, nominal GDP growth is inflation. More real countries, the US, Britain, Eurozone. In the short run, nominal and real are highly correlated. If I toggle back and forth between these graphs, you can clearly see same sort of pattern. The nominal grows a little bit more because there's inflation included in nominal variables. Basically, nominal GDP growth is inflation plus real GDP growth. But in the short run, a dramatic change in nominal GDP will almost always show up in real GDP.
Will almost always show up.
You can see real GDP also decline sharply. If we go back, if I had asked a bunch of economists,
guarantee that if things went south, the government would bail them out. By the year 2000, Fannie and Freddie had been ordered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development to make half of their mortgage purchases affordable housing loans. Total CRA lending spiked from $8 billion in 1991 to...
Hell yeah, 300 views. Why is the land value tax one doing the work? Oh no, it's just I guess I uploaded it more recently.
$4.5 trillion in 2007. By 1999, only 45% of residential mortgage loans acquired by Fannie and Freddie were solid prime loans. As Senator Phil Gramm, former Republican chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, and Mike Solon, former economic policy advisor to Mitch McConnell, wrote, quote, "The people who destroyed lending standards by driving subprime lending blame banks, greed, deregulation for causing the financial crisis. But a review of banking laws adopted since 1980 reveals that not one single safety and soundness measure was repealed."
We've risen from recession.
What is the name? What is the name of it? Wasn't there literally I think it was like in the 90s, some restriction was repealed and then Obama had to pass it again. What was it? 2008. Glass-Steagall, yes, Glass-Steagall. Vert Gang, what's up? The Glass-Steagall Act. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that point was. I don't know enough about the government policy for subprime shit. But I know there were also issues with weren't like insurance agencies or whatever, like rating agencies, weren't they were giving like these Glass-Steagall, not safety and soundness. I don't know. Who knows?
Blame banks. Greed.
I think he said.
In 1999, only 45% of residential mortgage loans acquired by Fannie and Freddie were solid prime loans. As Senator Phil Gramm, former Republican chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, and Mike Solon, former economic policy advisor to Mitch McConnell, wrote, quote, the people who destroyed lending standards by driving subprime lending blame banks. Greed. Deregulation for causing the financial crisis.
Glass-Steagall was one of them that prevented commercial investment.
A review of banking laws adopted since 1980 reveals that not one single safety and soundness measure was repealed. Crisis. But a review of banking laws adopted.
I don't know. I don't know if he's still quoting them.
1980 reveals that not one single safety and soundness measure was repealed.
We've risen.
But standards by driving subprime lending blame banks. Policy advisor to Mitch McConnell wrote, quote, the people who destroyed lending.
Looks like Ben is trying to copy Johnny Harris style. Everyone is. I mean, well, it's just a popular style now. It's the YouTube game. By driving subprime lending. But a review of banking law adopted since 1980 reveals that not a single safety and soundness measure was repealed. It's just Phil Gramm saying this. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But what wasn't also the issue? A lot of like the AAA rating subprime weren't the like rating agencies literally like lying? So conservative guy just said it. It seems like it. Did he just make that up? I think so. I don't really know. He doesn't link a source for it. So why did rating agencies do a bad job? The conventional answer draws heavily on the fact that ratings are paid for by the issuer. It's a conflict of interest. Issuers could and do buy high ratings from willing sellers to the rating agencies. The conventional answer cannot be wholly correct or even nearly so. Issuers also pay rating agencies to rate their corporate bond issues, yet few corporate bonds are rated AAA. If rating agencies were selling for high ratings, why weren't high ratings sold for corporate bonds? Moreover, okay, blah, blah, blah. I haven't fucking timed it. What is the alternative? There was indeed jockeying among the rating agencies for market share. Certainly to quote in the preceding section to indicate that there was some concern over competitive position, but the strong form view predicated as is on the notion that rating agencies were really being paid for high ratings is that they knew or deliberately avoided knowing that the securities didn't warrant such ratings, but gave them to preserve or increase their market share. Hypothesizes something very unlikely. That is, it hypothesizes the agencies were acting to their benefit in the very short term in a manner that would have been disastrous in a moderate term. Short term agencies would have preserved or increased market share. Moderate term was downgraded and perhaps and perhaps default to highly rated instruments, there would be considerable loss of market share, perhaps leading to the agency's failure. Thus, it seems more likely that shocking if market share was occurring. What's being done against a backdrop is nothing rather a general belief that it entered a brave new world in which risk to overstate the case a bit had been conquered. Indeed, for the past few decades, many of Wall Street managed to persuade themselves that quaint or rocket scientists could develop new instruments that would offer rewards far greater than the commensurate risk. Many market participants, including ABN and AMRO and Bear Stearns, as described above, drank the Kool-Aid that reflected a belief in a brave new world of manageable managed risk. Many of them were indeed persuaded by the very high-tech instruments at issue in structured finance.
Lending standards by driving subprime lending, blame banks.
But this doesn't. Importantly, this is not. They did not think risk had been conquered because of government intervention. Here doesn't seem like that, at least. Here, let's just Control F, enter. Oh, they don't even mention intervention once. Okay, fire.
Greed, deregulation for causing the financial crisis. But a review of banking laws adopted since 1980 reveals that not one single safety and soundness measure was repealed.
We've risen from recession. We have the capacity to write our own future. We're better positioned than any other nation on earth.
All these theories were tried out in the aftermath of the crash of 2008. The economic crash became a Great Recession thanks to the intervention of Barack Obama, who spiked spending, taxation, and regulation. He followed FDR's playbook. The result was the slowest economic recovery in modern American history.
It was slow because we didn't spend enough. That's the thing, though. That's the thing. That's the funny thing is that yes, it was the slowest recovery in history because it also had one of the smaller bailouts in history. First of all, fucking compare the U.S. to any European country which stagnated for way longer. Like, God, pull up the graphs I like. You see how they did? UK didn't recover from 2008. Dude, have I lost my mind? The libertarians say loan, finance, securities, speculation, nothing to do with the Great Depression. Yeah, they've always said that because they're anti-interventionists. They don't. Yeah. Yeah, it's dumb, but yeah, the U.S. 2008 recovery versus Europe. Most of the European countries did what Ben wants them to do, which is austerity measures, and their recovery sucked even more ass than ours. Yeah. I can barely. It seems like we're lower than some country in this graph, but yeah, look at all these countries that have a lower GDP per capita than 2008. Holy shit. Seven-day rolling average. Oh, that's coronavirus. I don't know why that is there. But yeah, a lot of European countries like totally stagnated after 2008 and had like much higher unemployment. Give me one sec. Hold on. Let me get my Krugman. I think there's a graph in this book. Aha. The unemployment rate. It's backwards. Transform. Where's transform? Transform. Flip horizontal. Okay, the unemployment rate. The early phase from late 2007 to early 2010, both Europe and America plunged into deep recession and experienced rapid and rising unemployment. The rise was sharper in the United States, where it's much easier to fire people than it was in most of Europe. But in any case, the whole North American economy suffered the worst blow since the onset of the Great Depression. Starting in 2010, however, the two sides of the Atlantic started to diverge. On one side, America started adding jobs, although its initial fall in unemployment was a partially statistical illusion, as explained above. Or as explained below. Don't care right now. Okay, by 2011 to 2012, a clear trend of economic improvement had emerged. The European economy, by contrast, went from bad to worse. By 2012, the continent went officially back into recession. Yeah, you can see the euro area is on top. Their unemployment started increasing, and ours kept going down. The Euro austerity cucked countries, which followed Ben Shapiro's advice, okay, which followed the liquidate. I think this quote is in here too. Yeah, we should just read this whole book on stream. Maybe the quote isn't in here. I don't know. What book is it? This one is End This Depression Now by Krugman. Yeah, I don't know. I think the liquidate labor quote might be in the other book. It might be in The Return of Depression Economics. I've never read it. I've heard good things about it. I think I heard good things about the prequel to it, but it seems interesting. I don't know. I read like the first 10 pages or something. That's how I knew that graph was in there. But regardless, stimulus-based austerity cucked Ben Shapiro owned. Ben Shapiro also cucked.
About $1.5 trillion. In 2007, the federal government spent about $2.7 trillion. In 2009, that number jumped to $3.5 trillion and stayed around or above that number for the entirety of Barack Obama's.
Is this the entirety of the budget, or is this the? Yeah, this is the entirety of the budget, right? This isn't the deficit, and this isn't just the stimulus.
Presidency. To understand what bad depression policy looks like, it's also worth looking at two depressions that didn't happen. In 1907, the stock market cratered after a failed attempted takeover of United Copper, a consortium of major bankers led by
he could be right about this stuff. I have no clue. I've never heard of it.
JP Morgan came in and bought up all the troubled assets.
Obama didn't spend enough. Exactly.
John Rockefeller inserted an enormous amount of his own money into a troubled bank. The panic lasted precisely 1 month. In 1920, the markets entered a depression as the United States and the rest of the world exited the war economy of World War I. Inflation and wartime expenditures had put governments behind the 8 ball. Their solution, a massive slashing of the federal budget, from $18.5 billion in 1919 to $6.4 billion in 1920, and then all the way down to $3.3 billion in 1922. The New York Fed, meanwhile, raised its discount rate despite a collapse in the monetary base. The unemployment rate spiked to 11.7% in 1921. It was down to 2.4% by 1923. As Robert P. Murphy of the Independent Energy Institute writes, the conclusion seems obvious to anyone whose mind is not firmly locked into the Keynesian or monetarist framework. The free
My mind is locked into the Keynesian
market work. Economic theory has practical consequences. A free market remains the single best answer to the possibility of a Great Depression. Not regulation, not priming the pump. The free market.
Base Biden saved our economy. He did, bro. That's why we have frying pan charts. It was so mega based. When is my Biden yard sign getting here? Let me check my email real quick. I ordered that shit like more than 2 weeks ago now. Biden's MMT pill, that's why he's incoherent. Check order status. Awaiting fulfillment still. Goddamn. Oh. Another 15 trillion. Another 20, or what's it? The meme is 20 trillion. Another 20 trillion in stimulus. Based Biden. Base Biden moment. Another 20, yeah, to Israel. Another 20 trillion to old people. It's actually so easy. Actually so easy. More people reposting. Give our GDP to Israel and fight the war in terror. $3K views. Hell yeah. One new follower. Elon might see it. I doubt it. The whole U.S. economy is dedicated to securing Iraq to Israel. Blowing up on TikTok too, guys. Most taxes. People like the Phillips curve one more on TikTok. I can't believe TikTok is a based Phillips curve hating platform. Okay, I don't care. Holy shit. Oh my god, get fucked. What? Okay, including Japan. Japan's been stagnant for like decades before the crisis. So, you know, including Japan is maybe that's a little unfair, but oh my god, get absolutely fucking shit on. Holy hell, man. Oh my god. Holy shit. What a fucking joke. This is just sad. For Europe people, I know. This is just, it's so embarrassing for them. Same thing happened after COVID too. Although they did more, I'm pretty sure they didn't go through as heavy as of austerity during COVID. Hentai anime revenue should be enough to pass all of USA and Europe. Japan number one. It's not quite there. Yeah, I don't think Ben Shapiro knows. Japan is up next, bro. They just need more QE. I'm pretty sure doesn't Japan literally have negative interest rate? Japan, don't they have a negative interest rate? And they still like have deflation. Another 10 trillion to the banks, yeah. In March 2024, they ended. Well, this was the whole. Yeah, this is why the Kamala crash happened, because they raised their. Japan raised their fucking rates to like 0.25 basis points. Yeah, but they had negative interest rates for a while. It was literally free money. They gotta buy more corporate bonds, drive down interest rates. It won't work. It's a way. Monetary stimulus is effective. I think there's I think like literally the Bank of Japan is the largest owner of index funds in Japan. I'm pretty sure they literally Yeah. Bank of Japan becomes biggest Japan stock owner. The Bank of Japan has taken over the biggest owner of the nation's stock, with total value holdings climbing well above 400 billion. Japanese government is MMT pilled on monetary policy but not on fiscal policy, and they hate immigrants. They don't we read that like no opinion blog article. It seems like they're more accepting of immigrants now. They don't necessarily want immigrants to stay. They just want immigrants to come and work and then leave. But it seems like they accepted a relatively decent amount of immigrants now, which is good and based in awesome pilled, awesome sauce pilled. No opinions of Weeaboo. He gets ratioed on Twitter for that take. Okay. I think I don't know. I haven't seen any good counter to that. So, good counter to the argument itself. Liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate the farmers, liquidate real estate. That, according to Herbert Hoover, was the advice he received from Andrew Mellon, the Treasury Secretary, as America plunged into depression. He gets ratioed on Twitter for that, so you're wrong. To be fair, there's some question about whether Mellon actually said that. All we have is Hoover's version, written many years later. But one thing is clear. Mellon-style liquidationism is now the official doctrine of the GOP. 2 weeks ago, Republican staff at a Congressional Joint Economic Committee released a report, Spend Less, Owe Less, Grow the Economy. That argued that slashing government spending and employment in the face of a deeply depressed economy would actually create jobs. In part, they invoked the aid of the confidence fairy. More on that in a minute, but the leading argument was pure Mellon. Here's the report's explanation of how layoffs would create jobs. A smaller government workforce increases the available supply of educated, skilled workers for private firms, thus lowering labor cost, dropping sticky wages, but dropping the euphemisms. What this says is that by increasing unemployment, particularly of educated, skilled workers, in case you're wondering, that mainly means school teachers. Oh, awesome, man. We can drive down wages, which would encourage hiring. Let's just, yeah. We're in a recession. You know what we need to do right now? Decrease human capital. Get rid of the teachers. Fuck the teachers. Pay them even less. We don't need none of that, bro. There is, if you think about it, an immediate logical problem here. Republicans are saying that job destruction leads to lower wages, which leads to job creation. But won't this job creation lead to higher wages, which leads to job destruction, which leads to I need some aspirin. I would love to be paid less if it means the line could go up a little more. Exactly, bro. Beyond that, why would lower wages promote higher employment? There's a fallacy of composition here. Since workers at any individual company may be able to save their jobs by accepting a pay cut, you think that we could increase overall employment by cutting everyone's wages. But pay cuts, as General Motors have helped save some workers' jobs and making GM more competitive with other companies whose wages costs haven't fallen. Hold on, I read that wrong. But pay cuts at, say, General Motors have helped some workers' jobs by making... Okay, yeah, okay. There's no comparable benefit when you cut everyone's wages at the same time. What's up, Collision? Welcome back. Line going up is more important than healthcare, food security for my child. True. Oh, I didn't even realize you were the one. I thought it was Copeland okay sending that first message. Sorry. Should have welcomed you back sooner. Point is, I noticed eventually. In fact, across the board, wage cuts would almost certainly reduce, not increase employment. Why? Because while earnings would fall, debts would not. So a general fall in wages would worsen the debt problem that are, at some point, the principal obstacle to recovery. In short, Meltonism is as wrong now as it was four score years ago. Now liquidationism isn't the only argument from the GOP report. the only arguments that GOP report advances to support the claim that reducing employment is actually creates jobs. It also invokes a confidence theory. That is, it suggests that a cuts in public spending would stimulate private spending by raising consumer and business confidence, leading to an economic expansion. Or maybe suggest, as in the right word, it insinuates maybe closer to the mark. For a funny little thing happened lately to the doctrine of the expansionary austerity, the notion that cutting government spending, even a slump, leads to faster economic growth. A year ago, conservatives gleefully trumpeted statistical studies that supposedly showing many successful examples of expansionary austerity. Since then, however, those studies have been more or less thoroughly debunked by careful researchers, most notably at the International Monetary Fund. To their credit, the staffers who wrote the GOP report were clearly aware that evidence no longer supports their position. To their discredit, the response was to make the same old arguments while adding weasel words to cover themselves. Instead of asserting outright spending cuts are expansionary, the report says that confidence effects of austerity can boost GDP growth. Can under what circumstances? Boost relative to what? It doesn't say. Did I mention that in Britain, where the government took that power last May, brought completely into the doctrine of expansionary austerity, the economy is stalled and business confidence has fallen to a 2-year low, and even the government's new, more pessimistic projections are based on the assumption that the highly indebted British households will take on even more debt in the years ahead. But never mind the lessons of history or events unfolding across the Atlantic. Republicans are now fully committed to the doctrine that we must destroy employment in order to save it. And Democrats are offering little pushback. The White House, in particular, has effectively surrendered the war of ideas. It no longer even tries to make the case against sharp spending cuts in the face of high unemployment. So that's the state of the policy debate in the world's greatest nation. One party has embraced 80-year-old economic fallacies, while the other has lost the will to fight it, and American families will pay the price. TikTok is a TikTok cucumber craze has Iceland in a pickle. What sex therapists wish you knew. Oh, I saw, by the way, Trump is likely backing out of the debate. I don't know, has that been confirmed yet? He made that like Truth Social post. Not an ABC. Well, that was the debate they had scheduled, right? They might, I don't know. I think they're working on something new. President Donald Trump negotiations between the two campaigns have hit an impasse over whether the candidates' microphones will be muted when it's not their turn to speak, according to 4 people familiar with the issue. Yeah, I don't think he's confirmed that he's backing out yet, but he made that he did make that like Truth Social post saying, "Oh, I'm really scared. I don't wanna." Oh, I'm not gonna be able to find it. I forgot he posts every fucking 5 minutes, bro. Falling against Kamala is looking very good. We spent all of our time and a great deal of money fighting crooked, though. Then they unceremoniously dumped him and threw in an even worse person, Kamala, a radical left Marxist. Okay, I don't know. Point is, he's probably backing out. And we'll see if they end up doing a new way. Palestine officially submit a request to join BRICS. How is the ceasefire going? Progress made. Still worked on final details, U.S. says. Negotiators continue to work to strike a deal for a ceasefire in Gaza and a release of Israeli hostages. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said Monday, following a massive exchange of fire between Israel and Iran-backed Lebanese militant group. blah, blah, blah. Such progress not guarantee a final agreement anytime soon. Negotiations of Egyptian capital are now discussing the nuts and bolts of the details. British general strike 1926. This had a profound influence on Keynes. On May 3rd, lasted 9 days of historic walkout by the British workers, representing dissatisfaction of the millions, ushering in the need to change the country. The general strike was called by the trade union Congress in response to poor working conditions and lessening of pay. Oh, sticky wages. This became one of the largest industrial disputes to take place in British history, with millions of people participating in the 9-day strike, showing the togetherness and solidarity amongst the workers. The Gold Standard Act of 1925 effectively had the ill-advised effect of making the British pound too strong against other currencies, adversely affecting the export market in Britain. The strength of the currency needed to be maintained through other processes, such as raising interest rates, which in turn proved detrimental for business owners. Mon says U.S. is trying to sell illusions. Mon directly participated in most recent rounds of negotiations. They have instead been represented by a delegation of mediators in Egypt and Qatar, Kirby stated during Monday. Response. In negotiations in Cairo, and argue that Kirby's statements are an attempt to sell illusions about to cover up the crimes of the occupation. Why no ceasefire? Who knows? I think Netanyahu added his new conditions, and I don't think Hamas. I don't know if they've come around to, or how willing they are to accept the permanent ceasefire still. Tell Netanyahu to get that shit done. Isn't he sending you your checks? True. But okay, I think I have both of these books downloaded. Both of which would be good to read. Okay, I don't have that one downloaded. Wow, what's solid notes? Good one. I feel like Israel needs to deal ATP. Okay, we should read these. So we should draw. I'm trying to think. It would take like at this point. Oh, okay, yeah. It would take like 20 days to read all of them, and then the opportunity cost would be reading the Benny Morris books. I feel like they'd be helpful. But so would have Benny Morris books. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't think there was one blog I wanted to read. And we'll probably read that. Oh, yeah, why you should not ignore economists. Okay, we read that part already. My objection is based on the assumption that Harris was endorsing Warren's ideas about price controls. Instead, it seems like she was simply throwing in some populist rhetoric, which means I'm no longer worried about the issue. Unlike the GOP, the Democrats have a candidate who can be relied upon to listen to the relevant experts and avoid taking extreme and dangerous policy steps. In this case, the experts were economists, most of whom are against anti-price gouging efforts and price control type policies in general. Here are a couple of representative polls from the Clark Center of Economists expert panel, which is a survey of a few dozen top economists. They killed the moderate ceasefire negotiator. I saw that, yeah. Best viewers, let's go. Let's go. Buying them right now. We're pumping off. We need it. But some progressives don't think economics should be regarded as experts in economic policy. Economists. They believe that popular conventional wisdom should take precedence over precedent when it conflicts with the opinion of academic economists. An example is Fordham law professor Zephyr Teachout, who wrote an article in The Atlantic entitled "Sometimes You Just Have to Ignore the Economist." Here are some experts. Price gouging bans are broadly popular, except among economists. The reason is that the perfect world of simple economic models, allowing sellers to charge whatever they want during periods of heightened demand, is actually a good thing. It signals to the rest of the market that there's money to be made on the product in question, which in turn leads to more supply. Plus, letting prices rise helps ensure that the product will be sold to people who value it the most. Here, regular people seem to understand a few things that economists don't. During an emergency, such as a natural disaster, a short-term demand... Yeah, I bet economists definitely don't understand that. Short-term demand cannot be met by short-term supply. A short-term price spike won't always trigger the long-term investments needed to increase supply. Because everyone knows that once the situation is, by definition, abnormal, they can't count on a continued revenue boom. During a rare blizzard, sellers might jack up the price of snowblowers, but investors aren't going to set up a new snowblower manufacturing hub based on a blizzard, because by the time they inventory to sell, the snow would be long melted. Interestingly, Teachout misunderstands the simple economic model that she's criticizing here. I don't think any economist believes that the price spike in response to a single blizzard generates a supply response. Instead, what happens, at least in the simple model, is that companies understand that blizzards are a thing that occasionally happen, and they plan the supply accordingly. A blizzard is not like an asteroid or a supervolcano eruption. It's incredibly easy for any corporate employee to go to weather.com and get data on how common blizzards are. So if corporations can charge higher prices during blizzards, they will plan to make more stuff because they know that blizzards will come along every so often. This is true even when price increases come from higher cost or from higher profits. Even if price increases only reflect the increased cost of delivering supplies during a blizzard, as long as profits are positive, it still makes sense to make more stuff to meet the increased demand. Blizzards are priced in, law. Everything is priced in. Exactly. That's a simple model anyway. Teachout dismisses it based on what she feels to be simple common sense, but she misunderstands the model. She's far too quick to dismiss the idea that price controls during blizzards would simply limit the supply over the long term. Teachout also fails to grapple with the second reason to worry about price controls. During abnormal market disruptions, they can lead to hoarding. Consumer goods are get scarce during a blizzard, and price spikes are a way of rationing scarce goods. If prices don't rise, there's no way to ration purchases to individuals. A few people can rush and buy up all the toilet paper and peanut butter on the shelves. Everyone who lived through COVID remember what happens when people hoard. But when prices soar, it means that people can't afford to hoard. And also, if anti-price gouging controls are in place, people hoard in expectation of a blizzard, even when one doesn't materialize, just to get ahead of the rush. Meanwhile, how many blizzards will we get unexpected because of climate change? But I guess climate change is climate change is priced in. Modeling hoarding behavior isn't simple. It's actually kind of hard because it depends on on a bunch of stuff like expectations, strategic interactions, irrationality, and so on. Common sense won't give you an easy answer when it comes to preventing hoarding. This is why the economics discipline has smart academics who work on a problem. If those smart academics tell you that anti-price gouging laws will make hoarding worse, they might be wrong, but you can't just wave away their arguments and common sense your way to an answer you like better. So Teachout tries to demonstrate why economists aren't useful on the price gouging issue, yet ends up demonstrating the opposite. And yet, on the other hand, she follows up her dubious point about supply with an argument that actually does make a lot of sense. The other big problem of textbook economics take on price gouging is the assumption that temporarily high-priced products will find their way to the people who value them most. During a power outage, a working-class cancer patient who desperately needs to buy the last generator in stock to keep his medications refrigerated might not be able to outbuild a healthy millionaire who just wants to run the air conditioner. This is another way seeing the price gouging bans are a form of moral policy. All parents, not just the wealthiest, should have equal chance to obtain diapers, even if supply chains are disrupted. Price gouging laws represent a different set of marketing rules. market rules grounded in fairness. In fact, this is an argument economist often make various forms of rationing or government provision of goods. In an incredibly influential article in 1963, Kenneth Arrow, a Nobel Prize-winning economist whose work underlies much of the modern discipline, argued that healthcare industry has a moral dimension that makes a typical market approach untenable. In a short paper in 1977, Martin Wiseman, the same economist who did the work on hoarding as cited above, showed that when inequality is very high, allocating goods randomly can actually be better for the general welfare of society than using prices to ration things. Of course, that short Wiseman paper is just a thought experiment. It doesn't take things like long-term supply responses into account, and it just assumes hoarding is impossible. But like Arrow's paper and many others, it shows that economists are not the simple robotic proponents of free markets that teach out and some other progressives assume them to be. Economists think about fairness, equality, all other things the normal people care about. There's a caricature of economists as priests of unfettered capitalism, using their theories to justify free market policies instead of trying to actually figure out how the world works. But in a post back in 2021, I pointed out that much of the economics literature is now dominated by the problems of unfettered free markets. The free market revolt is over. Economists concerned about inequality is growing rapidly, as evidenced by the language economists are using in their papers. Here's a graph showing just one example. Share research mentioned anti-variation in the top 1%. It's not just language. A large number of major research programs are now dedicated to finding ways the government can act to fix the economic problems besetting the U.S. and the world. Some of them include the study of inequality, taxation could reverse it, the study of labor market monopoly, corporate power to hold down wages. This is what we're going to read about. Did I make a page for... I don't think I made a page for monopsony. I think I just have this here. Study monopoly power and the new antitrust movement. The study of cash benefits. Ooh. The Opportunity Insights Program and parallel efforts to study and reverse falling mobility. Actually, it's no one's sensitive about investment at all. Pricing is always accurate according to Western media. I mean, economics can kind of be cool now, but there was a time when certain ideas in macro were reflecting unfettered optimism prior to 2008. Yeah, I've read about that. Renewed interest in racial disparities, the new minimum wage literature. I think I actually have this linked already. Yeah. The new development economics and the new economics of poverty. This is pretty short. What is it? What I click on? And so on. Meanwhile, the institutions of the profession are becoming dominated by more and more interventionist-minded scholars. For example, the last 7 presidents of the all-important American Economics Association have been Richard Taylor, one of the inventors of behavioral economics. Jeez, I can't speak. Robert J. Schiller, who wrote a book about how fraud and deception are fundamental to free markets. Alvin E. Roth, an economist who helped devise mechanism of centralized allocation for things like organ transplants. Oliver Blanchard, a centrist macroeconomist, has been leaning more and more towards government intervention. Ben Bernanke, Janet Yellen. David Card, who did the original research showing that minimum wage isn't so bad, and is one of the main champions of the empirical turn. Meanwhile, the high-profile economists tend to be champions of government intervention. Young high-profile economists tend to be champions of government intervention and votes of inequality. Oh, Saez and Zuckman. I suppose that just because many economists hold progressive views doesn't mean that progressive activists and intellectuals need to pay attention to them. To teach out another advocates of anti-price gouging laws know what policies they want, and they don't need Martin Weitzman or Ken Arrow to sprinkle holy water on their ideas. I suppose that it's often very helpful to have smart, thoughtful people who actually have the same goals as you, and who actually have thought deeply and rigorously about how to achieve them. Sometimes they can furnish your arguments to help your cause. Sometimes they can flesh out your policy proposals with practical ideas to help achieve greater success. Sometimes they can even tell you when you made a misstep and need to rein it in. Yo, ASMR voice? What's I doing? You want me to do? Can we make economics ASMR channel? Do you think that exists? That almost certainly does exist. Cause people, there's like ASMR for like teaching you other languages and shit. Alright, economics ASMR. Game theory. ASMR teaching you economics.
Buys and consumers get utility with more utility with the less you buy. That sort of thing.
I can't hear her.
So I don't know about you guys, but where I live, when you go to primary school or high school, you have to like be at the primary school or high school in your suburb. More complicated. Anyway, so
How is she still on this?
inferior good. So
Oh, inferior goods.
oh, and then I have an acronym to like remember all of these things.
What this did she mess up the video or something? She went over the supply demand graph and then a decrease in demand. That's all she got through. I think I don't know. She must have just not changed. I heard her talk about like inferior goods, so there's probably something else to it. Is Arcana Boy still here? There's a gap in the market. He should fill it. Can we get Arcana Boy ASMR videos? Oh, personal finance ASMR. Oh, this is something.
Right? Times.
This is more like personal and finance stuff. Completing the square compound interest.
Factoring. Getting these things can be called completing the square. Okay.
It's just like this is fucking.
You divide it.
Forwards or right or left. Be a few years and then the demand for it. You save money. We just like to.
I'll make economics ASMR channel. I'll read the entirety of Mancute's Principles of Economics in a whispering ASMR voice. Okay, and on top of that, if you're someone who actually cares about understanding how the world works, economists help you do that, can help you with that too. Just because economists care about inequality and other social problems doesn't mean that the profession has exchanged a libertarian religious canon for a progressive one. Now that isn't universally true. Joseph Stiglitz, a darling progressive think tank for its broadsides against neoliberalism, once praised Hugo Chavez's economic policies despite ample evidence they were leading the country over a principle. Do you think he linked his own? Yep, he did link his own thing. But it's the exception rather than a rule. Research suggests that although economists are influenced a bit by their personal ideologies, this influence is pretty limited, and economists don't end up falling neatly into progressive or conservative ideological blocks. For example, Gordon Eidahl studied the Clark panel, top of economists that I cited above, and they found that economists can't easily be clustered into liberal and conservative camps. The results so far do not identify the panel members with conservative versus liberal views. We tried two different approaches. In the first, we looked for clusters in the data. The second, no systematic evidence of clustering into two, or even roughly, or even a few roughly equal-sized camps, yielding only weak evidence that 3 or 4 idiosyncratic individuals differ from the rest of the sample and from each other. As the second approach, we focus on the subset of questions that were flagged as previously likely to generate disagreements due to distributional concerns or due to debates on the possible importance of market failures. If there are liberal and conservative camps, some economists would consistently give the Chicago price theory response, and others would consistently give the opposite reaction. There is no support for different camps in our data, only idiosyncratic views amongst some panel members. Those people take a different approach, using only text analysis of economist papers to predict which researchers will reach broadly into government conclusions, and which will reach pro-government conclusions. It turns out that there is some predictive power here. Economists who use generally right-coded language tend to predict results. Worse results from government intervention, and economists who use generally left-coded language tend to say government intervention is good, but the tendencies aren't very strong. If you plot the data of the research findings versus ideology, it looks like a mostly random cloud with very little predictive power. So while every researcher has their biases, economists are not generally either progressive shills or libertarian shills, which means that they're mostly focused on just figuring out how the world actually works. In fact, economists have been doing a lot more of this as the decades have gone by. There's a well-documented trend of econ becoming more empirical and less theoretical since the 1980s. Empirical studies can be influenced by ideology, but it's a bit harder to massage the data to reach your desired conclusions than it is to write down the theory that gives you the results that you want. More and more what academic economists do is just finding the facts. Even if you're utterly dedicated to a certain political movement, it's important to have some understanding of how the world really works. If your ideology tells you to build a dam, you need to consult civil engineers who will tell you if it's actually feasible. If you don't, you could end up with a lot of drowned citizens. Economists don't know everything, and they can often get things wrong. The fact that different economists disagree with each other on almost every issue is proof of their fallibility. An economy is inherently both harder to study and harder to control than a bridge, or a jet engine, or a particle accelerator. Getting reproducible, dependable, broadly applicable results in social science will always be an uphill battle. But economists know a lot of facts about the economy. They have a lot of data and a lot of good statistical methods. And once in a while, they even have a theory that consistently works. What is this about? Area rapid transit. The authorities predicted a 15% of area commuters reach the system, but using money from a grant provided by the National Science Foundation, University of California, Berkeley economist McFadden and his team of researchers predicted it usually would be only 6.3%. The actual number 6.2%. Call me crazy, but I called it predictive success. The models used to make a prediction were clever extensions of simple utility theory, the oldest trick in the economic playbook. These models are called random utility discrete choice method models. Have been applied in a huge number of areas, including the product and development, pricing decisions, marketing, and energy. And a one Nobel Prize. Look at auction theory. Google may have an excellent search algorithm, but it's a real moneymaker to the system, by which it auctions its advertisement space. Those auctions are conducted. Oh, thanks for the I think this guy subbed a while ago, but White Finger Audio. Thank you. I appreciate it. The YouTube thing is slow. It's really slow, but generalized second price auction developed relatively recently by economists such as Hall Varian, now employed at Google. That auction setup, like the others, is based on game theory, another basic element of the economics toolbox. Auction theory is focused on predicting which type of auctions most reliably lead to profitable trades. It is often more crucial. It is more and more crucial to the profits of online service companies, which is why tech startups are now hiring economists. One other example, so-called gravity models on international trade do a very good job predicting how much trade will occur between two countries given the size of their economies and the distance between them. Wild. They're an intelligent, meticulous, professional, and highly informed bunch, and listening to people like that really makes you dumber. Now, having said all that, I do think there is one big problem with economist policy advice beyond the inherent difficulty of drawing firm conclusions about large social systems. Econ is a deeply hierarchical profession where intellectual authority of the most prestigious researchers receives far too much deference. Anyone who's been in econ academia knows this very well, but there's actually evidence supporting it. In Javidini Chang 2019, did an experiment on economists themselves and found that they gave much more credence to ideas that they thought came from prominent mainstream figures in the field. Using online randomized control experiment involving 2,425 economists in 19 countries, we examined the effects of ideological bias on views amongst economists. Participants were asked to evaluate statements from prominent economists on different topics. What a source attribution of each statement is randomized about participants' knowledge. For each statement, participants received a mainstream source and ideologically different less / non-mainstream source or no source. We find a changing source attributions from mainstream to less mainstream or removing them significantly reduces economists' reported agreement with statements. This contradicts the image economists have of themselves, with 82% of participants reporting that in the evaluating statement, one should only pay attention to its content. Occasionally, this reference to authority can lead to a sort of cascade failure where a few old guys get some basic things wrong and everyone else has to either humor them or challenge their mistakes only slowly and incrementally. A particularly egregious example of this was in the case of climate economics. I wrote a post about this back in 2021. Basic story here is that a few prominent researchers in the field made some basic errors when assessing how much damage climate change could be. Younger researchers knew that the older guys had messed up, but because of the culture of the president, it took them a very long time to start pushing back on a mistaken conventional wisdom. But policymakers had to realize very quickly that climate economists were downplaying the threat and decided to ignore them in favor of technologists, policy wonks, occasionally activists. As a result, the field of climate economics has become almost completely marginalized and is now only starting to claw its way back into a position of influence. So economists shouldn't be treated as sages, nor their advice received as wisdom. They should not be the only experts consulted or making policy, but it's always worth hearing what they have to say. The idea that they are free market dogmatists who stay on simplistic ideas can be waved away with an appeal to common sense is badly mistaken. Wild. Okay, we gotta sort some of this shit. We gotta read that article. What's wrong with libertarianism eventually, but it's like a really long article. I'll move this up here right now. How long is this? Oh wait, this is like an actual fucking like study thing, so it might be. Oh no, this seems simple enough. Why is it so? 43 pages. Who made everything so long and hard? Lol, like penis. Do you guys get the joke? Hopefully, when I go to fucking college, I'm gonna take some advanced math classes, and then we'll be able to understand some of the more statistical jargon shit better. What classes are you taking? It's gonna be mostly general stuff at first. I mean, it's gonna be fucking like calculus and algebra shit. I don't know, man. And probably there's, I guess, English classes too. Probably whatever fucking science class they have to do there. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. Oh, wait. Poland and Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't actually know. I don't actually... Wait, no. I don't... How do I actually... I should know that. I should be... This is, like, so easy. This is so... Do I need Serbia? I do need Serbia. Do you think... Is Ukraine gonna be... Yeah. Then... What, Hungary? Yeah, okay. I didn't know if I needed Serbia and Croatia, Hungary, Slovakia as well. I don't know. I don't know where these places are. Or I guess I know where the Red Sea is, but I don't know where the Bay of... I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna say Pacific Ocean. I didn't even... Oh, this is so fucked. Why does this not count as the Atlantic? Okay. I don't know why. Wait. Gulf of Mexico? Okay. What the fuck is here? Florida Strait? Okay. The Mediterranean? I didn't need the Mediterranean? Wait, where? I don't know where the Red Sea is now, man. Yes, I do. Hold on. The Persian Gulf? I didn't need the wait, do I know it? I don't know what I'm doing. I honestly don't. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. Bering Strait? Is it? I don't know. What? How is it not just? What if I just do? Indian Ocean's not going to be. Oh man, I don't even know. I get so distorted now. Southern Ocean. Arctic Ocean. Gulf of Suez. What was it? What's the shortest route? Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean Sea, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, Red Sea. Arabian Sea? These aren't real. These are made up. Okay. 3 minimum wage papers walk into a bar. Oh, I forgot. It has an issue with me fucking copying shit. Okay, well, we'll get around it. Why did it do that? What is the effect of minimum wage on the labor market? It mechanically raises the wages of employed workers at the bottom of the wage distribution, but its effects on the overall employment of that group of workers has been debated by economists for decades. Given the U.S. states and federal governments regularly experiment with higher minimum wages, one would think economists will come to a consensus, especially given how many studies have been done on it, but the debate continues. Despite the fact many studies have been done analyzing the effects of an increase of the minimum wage on employment levels across different U.S. states. And on the federal level. Debate over how much they increase or decrease employment. Really. Continues. Not is it Sudan stuff? I don't know anything about what's going on in Sudan. Macklemore says he canceled Dubai show over UAE's purported role of ongoing genocide and humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Wow, good on you, Macklemore. $2.7 billion in funding needed. How about we give? Didn't we give like $9 billion to fucking Palestine? We won't even give $2.7 billion to Sudan. Really? Need 1 million encampment protesting UAE now. One of the things that makes this a lacking consensus among economists about the empirical and historical effects of minimum wage and employment even more curious is that minimum wages have often been opportunities to showcase ingenious casual research designs. Card and Kruger in 1995 was considered to be a classic in labor economics, not only because it was the seminal paper on the new minimum wage literature, but also because it was instructional in making difference in different research designs more widely appreciated within economics. Put together, this creates a bit of an unusual feature. States regularly tolerate the minimum wages, seeing it as an important anti-poverty program. Interest in the question remains very high among economists. It attracts the best and brightest in labor, and these studies often use well-identified casual designs. So why is there so little consensus? The U.S. needs to fund center-right paramilitaries in Sudan, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know shit about the Sudan stuff, so. The whatever chart showing $2.7 billion in funding was needed, we should probably just give that. That's like so. That's like that. I think we literally gave Gaza $9 billion, so we should probably just say fuck it and give $2.7 billion to people in Sudan. Like, if they really need it. Oh, I'm trying. I don't know if they were. I mean, like if they were like worst case scenario, if the fucking literal Taliban was about to take over Sudan, then I don't know. Fuck, maybe we should fund center right coalitions. I don't know. Give it to Israel, then give UAE the Iron Dome. This Substack will not resolve the question. Rather, this subject will discuss 3 relatively new important empirical studies that have shed light on what effect, if any, the minimum wage has on the employment of those likely affected by it. My hope is that I can do 2 things by writing this review. 1, by walking the reader through my interpretation of these papers, you will gain insight about the minimum wage, and 2, you will better understand the way one might combine economic theory, high-quality data, and the difference in different designs to answer extremely hard empirical questions filled with androgynes. All right, that's this. Androgynes, right? Fucking androgyny. Mr. Fuck, I don't care. This won't solve any of the disputes. Probably will give you a better. Forgive me. I don't know. I'll say you a better understanding of the ways in which one might combine economic theory, high quality data, and different designs to explain it to answer extremely hard empirical problems. What's an experimental approach that compares the change in outcomes over time between populations enrolled in a program and a population that's not a comparison? Bunging and stacking minimum wages. When I first heard that Dorku, Sengiz, and Aaron Doob, Attila Linder, and Ben Zipperer had published a paper on minimum wage at the Quarterly Journal of Economics, I perked up. The top 5 journalists, like the QJE, are notoriously selective, and publishing in them is it's for most of us a rare and generally important accomplishment. Any minimum wage published at the top 5 journals is practically an obligatory read, given editors and references perception that a paper has made major scientific contributions of general interest. Given the minimum wage is such a contentious political question with massive fault lines that spread so spread apart a person could fall right through them, I was eager to give the article my full attention, but I was interested in an article because it had become more broadly associated with a particular kind of innovative approach to difference in different designs called stacked regressions. Okay, I don't know. No, I'll say who wrote it. Published a bit of white paper. In a prestigious journal using a stacked regression. Stacked regression, as I will explain, is an early alternative to canonical use of two-way fixed effects estimators in that it creatively reorganizes and expands the dataset to circumvent the problems created by differential timing. Sengiz et al. 2019 seemed like Mir and West 2016, not because both are about the minimum wage, but because each seemed to have grasped some of the problems that differential timing creates for fuck, what was this? Two-way fixed effects. Linear regression method uses panel data to estimate causal effects. Other projects that leave 3 important attributions I like to bring to your attention. They are 1, an ingenious approach and guided by theory to evaluate the bite of the minimum wage, using bunching in a wage and employment distribution surrounding a discontinuity created by this is gibberish. The bite of the minimum wage using bunching in the wage and employment distribution surrounding a discontinuity created by the minimum wage. 2, a large state panel measuring employment wages from 1979 to 2016, encompassing 138 separate meaningful increases in minimum wage. And 3, the use of TWFE and stacking event studies to study minimum wages effect on employment. Let me walk you through each. Visualize theoretical prediction. It's been a slow journey for me to fully absorb how effective a well-designed picture can be in the service of an empirical project. Students and economists early in their career should pay close attention to the choices the authors make in connecting theory, intuition, and identification. One of those choices is with a simple yet powerful figure illustrating what they call the minimum wages bite. The bite of the minimum wage is that it's create a bunching pattern in the employment distribution just above and below the new minimum wage itself. This is because the distribution of employment across wages is smoothed through the counterfactual of the new minimum wage. Then raising the minimum wage should cause a bunching pattern as jobs just below the new minimum wage are shifted just above. The authors illustrate this insight in the following figure. Okay. Authors create a visual representation of the bite, minimum wage, and the bunching employment. The bite refers to the here. I think he phrased it like really weird. The bite of the minimum wage is that it should create a bunching pattern. He really should say like effect, right? Show the bunching pattern. Employment distribution. In the employment distribution, yes. It's just below the minimum wage. Are shifted to above wage. Their figure combines two ideas in one figure's predictions from economic theory, showing precisely where and when causal effects should appear in the display of actual and counterfactual levels of employment. The figure is beautiful with interesting plots, colors, and separate line types. Separate types of lines with shadings that catch the reader's eye. Notice the counterfactual employment distribution is shown with a red dashed line corresponding to a red zebra-like shading of the area below the counterfactual employment distribution to the left of the minimum wage. The blue solid line shows the actual employment, which should be substantially bunched at the discontinuity, reflecting causal effects, but not at the middle or rightward parts of the employment distribution. Figure forces the reader to see both what the authors will be doing, measuring the causal effects by contrasting the actual to the counterfactual, as well as guide the reader to theoretical predictions. The causal effects, if they are to be believed, have two, not one, elements. We should see a bunching of jobs in the minimum wage. That much is clear, but notice what else is predicted in the figure. We should not see bunching anywhere else. If we found a bunch of bunching in the right part of the distribution, then in many ways it would cause us to doubt that any bunching found at the left part of the distribution is real. Such falsifications are very common applied in microeconomics, but it's not always the case that falsifications are so closely wedded to economic theory the way this one will be. I highly recommend early career economists pause and reflect on the paper's grammar and rhetoric as it relates to this one and simple, effective figure. Current population survey in 1979 to 2016. Wage experiments. Authors used worker data over 1979 to 2016 from the current population survey out ratio group matched with 138 state-level minimum wage increases. The primary models used are event study specifications estimated with standard TWFE models. Data is bent into 3/4 of the dollar from 0 to 30. $0 to $30, but most of their event study plots course around $1 bins. Figure 1's logic guides us as we are presented with estimates from these models. We should be looking for the bunching at the discontinuity, and we should be looking for smoothness everywhere else. And if there's a disemployment effects, then the total number of jobs employed at the bunch part of the employment distribution must be smaller than under counterfactual. I mean, it's yeah, okay. Really, that should go. Kind of want to add that under here. This affects the employment jobs. Why does Google not think this employment is word? The bunch section should be smaller. I meant to hit add to dictionary. God damn it. Now I gotta wait again. Add to dictionary. Then under the counter Actual. Authors used worker data over 1979 to 2016 current population survey. Rising group matched with 138 state level minimum wage increases. Figure 2 presents the estimated lag and lead coefficients from their event study model. Notice that that in proximity, right around a minimum wage increase, there are mirroring coefficients of similar magnitude and opposing signs. They find substantial declines in employment around the B1 bin, along with similarly sized large increases around the B0 bin relative to some baseline. But they also do not find any other breaks throughout the wage distribution. The two main theoretical predictions for Figure 1 hold in their data. Since estimated lag and lead coefficients, I can understand the graph itself. I can understand like the wage bins and like we're seeing like the bunching here. Difference between actual kind of. But I don't understand what it means by estimated lag and lead coefficients from their event study model. That sentence is gibberish to me. Okay, anyway. Decrease in employment. Wage bins, okay, yeah, relative to the new minimum wage. Okay, so. But I should also mention earlier how they did their wage bins. Data has been in the quarters of a dollar, from $0 to $30. Most of the event study. Yeah. To the new minimum wage. And a similarly sized increase in the zero wage bin. They also do not find any data breaks throughout the wage distribution. The two main theoretical predictions for Figure 1 hold in their data. Next, the authors calculate some kind of net employment by summing the two coefficients. Summing the coefficients is equivalent to calculating the net gains or net loss in employment caused by the minimum wage. They find a number of jobs missing below the minimum wage, negative 0.018. Estimated coefficient with standard error 2.004. It's just a little bit smaller than the above, plus 0.21 with standard error 0.003. The net effect, which they label present change in effective deployment, is imprecisely estimated at plus 0.28. Disemployment effects imply negative effects, but here we see positive ones, suggesting that any disemployment effects must be very small if they exist at all. Given wages increased by 0.68 relative to pre-treatment total unemployment, a reasonable conclusion to draw from the study is that real earnings among workers increased because wages grew and employment failed to decline. Next, they use the data to calculate the net employment effects. Finding that the number of jobs missing just below the minimum wage. Slightly smaller than the above minimum wage. The ones just above minimum wage. Original conclusion from this is that real earnings increased. Real earnings amongst increased. As their wages rose and employment did not decline. Authors analysis extends to effects on employment over time, as well as with respect to the wage distribution, and these are also estimated using standard event study specifications. Figure 3 presents coefficients and 95% confidence intervals for each lead and lag in this model. I understand that I know what 95% confidence intervals are. Everything else is nonsense to me. As with the bunching analysis, the same number of jobs lost and the same number of jobs gained at the wage discontinuity is roughly the same as the four years post-treatment. Even in short to medium run, the authors are able to cast doubt on meaningfully sized disemployment effects. The fact that pre-treatment differences in net employment are relatively close to zero provides additional confidence that the effects found in the years post-treatment are indeed causal. Okay, I'll show away from that is figure 3 estimates that over a four year, over, what's up, Bubby? Over a 4-year period. Effects on unemployment. Say remained low. I've been banished from the Gorp stream for the night for being too Zionist. Oh no. Womp womp. Now you're stuck watching this boring shit get fucked. Oops, I did not mean to crop it. What'd you say exactly? I'm gonna start banning every procrastinating. I don't know if I've ever actually. I mean, you just said you were banning from the night. Fuck that! I'm gonna learn about some games. We did all the fun stuff today already. Now we're reading shit I don't even understand. I don't understand half the shit I just read, bro. Or no, I understand 80% of the things we read, except for a lot of this paragraph. But I get the gist of it, so it's fine. It's fine. After presenting these main results across the wage distribution over time, the authors then engage in a type of exhaustive search of heterogeneous effects, a theme that we will see in another paper I discussed below. If minimum wage is to have any bite, the reason we should see it for the most likely affected types of workers. By definition, they should be low-wage work consisting of younger and less experienced workers. So they repeat their analysis using subsamples containing only teenagers and those without a high school degree, separately by race, the degree of industry concentration, specific sectors, and for groups that are probabilistically the most likely individuals to feel the brunt of the minimum wages disemployment effects. But no matter how to slice the data, the results stay the same. Disemployment effects cannot be detected. I just compared Israel's education versus Palestinian education in terms of radicalization. Forbes did not like this. Oh no, what did he say? By the way, I want to test Twitch's new knock feature, but no one or NK streaming. I can do it with one of these people. I don't know exactly what it does. I don't know if it like I don't know if it like opens Twitch's like dumb stupid like inbuilt like collaboration stream thing where like you can have guest up. I don't know. Okay. The authors then this aggregate the data and focus on groups like teenagers and high school dropouts, or not just high school dropouts, and those without. Degrees would be expected to dispro. Fortunately, or the impact of any bite in the minimum wage. The authors conclude. Disemployment effects are still very minimal. That Israeli teaches the same, and then refers to one video of Israeli kids shouting death to Arabs. Wow, fine. Listen, the issue is, like, I don't know if any nation teaches their history, like, super correctly. Like, I live in America. Like, we definitely, like, don't teach about, like, we don't teach about our treatment of the Native Americans super accurately, at least not until, like, high school. And even in high school, they probably, it's not, like, the most accurate thing ever. The issue is, the U.S. has, for the most part, either given the natives reservations already or genocided them already. So that problem is solved for us. But for you guys, it's still very much happening. It's like, you know, if they don't teach about the Nakba correctly or anything, or if they teach what the whatever founding myth, the evil founding myths of Israel, that still very much has a lot bigger effects than just like what we teach our fucking kids about Christopher Columbus. But I don't think Israel's education compares to some of the Palestinian education that I've seen. Sure, there are some schools who get a watered down version of history, but they aren't taught to hate the other side. Yeah. Methodological alternative. In a later subsection of the paper, accompanied by logic and details provided in Appendix D to paper, the authors shift their focus to the theoretical predictions to their dependence on the TWFE model for their evidence. As the authors have explained, the TWFE model has non-trivial assumptions, and without them, the coefficients presented by the authors do not have causal interpretation. Sun and Abraham for 2020, for instance, show that without the three assumption, parallel trends, no anticipation, and homogeneous treatment across profiles across all cohorts. Well, that seems like a reasonable assumption. But okay, population regression leads to lags. Leads and lags have absorbed treatment effects not only from the periods that they measure, but also the periods, other periods as well, both included and excluded in the model. While strength of devices would only show up precisely what the theory predicts, the problem still remains: how confident should we be that these the TWFE results in the first place? Landing at the other side is what all the intercover is for. So early in the DID credibility revolution, the authors are clearly aware of the problems that TWFE has under differential timing. For instance, they mentioned the issue of the negative weighting on the long leads using TWFE. As was referred to early working papers by Abraham and Sun, the authors forego Sun and Abraham's interaction weighted, I don't know what the fuck that is, and instead choose to stick with TWFE by using what they call clean controls of untreated units of restructure through a restructuring of their data, such that treatment timing has been recentered and balance has been achieved in a relative event time. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, it makes sense. I got all that. Yep, I know. Yep, yep. I'm not gonna explain it to you guys because you guys are too dumb to even wrap your head around it. But I know what was just said. When a panel data set is balanced in a relative event time, it is perfectly rectangular, with each row of panels to be of length h. Am I too stupid? Yeah, I don't know. I was understanding it at first. I'm understanding less and less of this as I go on, I'm noticing. We might need to come back to this in a year. After I take my fucking college classes. A balanced panel in relative event time is impossible with differential timing because each treatment group has different number of pre and post period. Okay, what the fuck? When the data is restructured or treatment data center data sets become balanced in event time. Oh. What? Hey, wait, I can understand this graph. I cannot find any disemployment effect at the bunch part of the wage distribution implied by intuition and theory. Okay, these graphs I don't understand. Wait, exactly, this is just a change in net employment. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fucking come back to this later. I ain't doing econometric shit ever. I'm sure I'll have to learn some of it, but the actual paper itself is only 50 pages, although I'm not going to understand some of this. This part I can understand. This looks like nonsense. Okay, well, let me see if I can set up. Some plan to read the Paul Krugman books. Is this still there? Because it shouldn't be. Okay, it is still there. Go notes. Two 205 pages, but only it's a little bit less than that because some of it's like citations and stuff. Let's go to like 70. $191. The 191 over 30. How many days would that take? 6 days? Well, 7. If we did 30 pages a day, that's basically like with how I read, that takes anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So at least when I'm streaming. Damn, I used to knock out books a lot faster. Although I guess now I read other shit other than books too. So plus I would just be paperback and I wouldn't like take notes of them. I would just like I would sometimes highlight. Sometimes I wouldn't finish them as well. Although I still don't finish a lot of books. I think this is a 60-page thing, which I do want to read at some point. This would be like a full streamer reading this one thing, but I think it'd be really good. I really like this quote. It is the libertarian who is committed to the grand claim that for some reason intervention must always be avoided. The piecemeal social engineer, as Popper called the interventionists, can concede a presumption in favor of private property while reserving the right to whittle away its excesses by means of state action. She faces no obligation to disprove the overall utility of property rights. The utilitarian libertarian, however, is obligated to show that the utility of property rights is so nearly universal that all government intervention is with them is bound to fail when judged against a standard of human happiness. This is a killer quote, dude. Oh, then we gotta do the NGDP targeting shit at some point too.
Are flooded. For those of you that are unaware and uninitiated, you're just here because, you know, I react to shit. I react to basically everything that goes.
Hell yeah. It's actually so easy. Actually so easy. They love me. Land value tax Twitter is in love with 3.2k views. Well, that's impression. Actually, only has 1,000 views, and then of that, only 9% of people watch to the end. That's actually probably better than YouTube. I don't think YouTube shows me that. It's not going to show me though. What's the term? Like engagement, the view duration. I don't think it shows that until we're almost at 800 subs. I think it shows that until later on. Stocks. It is stocks, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, audience retention. Doesn't show that until later on. Road to 1K. We'll get there one day. That leveled off after 600. It's got 69. Nobody cares about the Phillips curve. Land value tax one is still popping off, bro. Let's go. Let's go. Listen, we can't have less subs than Manar for too long. God, he's at 1.07k. You know what to say? First 1k is the hardest. Yeah. So right wingers are snowflakes because they don't
Destiny wannabe. This
agree with advocating for assassinations is funny. Yeah, that's the reason they're snowflakes. Not because they're literally pissing themselves about a fucking white person's taco joke. Like, he doesn't upload. Yeah, I see. Andrew Wilson embarrasses himself. How does he get so? I guess it's Andrew Wilson. It's like fucking clickbait shit. And my clickbait shit gets that too. Sometimes. Ukraine is raising a Russia over 3. Ukraine's war is over. Zelensky begs for allowance, bans elections. Russia has won and US is out. 9 months ago. Like, how long is this book? Oh wait, this is a fucking PowerPoint. What? This is not what I want. I don't know, maybe this will be useful for fucking... There's a book, like an actual book called Intro to Post-Keynesian Economics that I think I wanted to read at some point. Yeah, this. Not a 27 slide PowerPoint. Okay, we gotta figure out. Yeah, let me make a page for monopsony. Wait, I didn't do it already, did I? Have not. Then it's in here. Is there anything else I need? Okay. All right, short stream today. I got up fucking late today and I didn't do shit. Okay. Actually, I didn't get up late today. I got up relatively early. I just didn't do. I just made those. I made those shorts, and then I didn't do much. And then I also, I had to meet with my fucking college advisor to plan my schedule. Okay. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll stream again tomorrow. A longer stream, boring stream. We're gonna be reading. I don't think I have any fucking viewers to rate anyone with on Twitch. If anyone watching is not subbed, we are 1 sub away from 800 subs, and having the higher number next to my name will make me feel good. So, yeah, go ahead and do that. All right. See ya, guys, tomorrow.